I think it's 9. We'll get started. It should be kick 9. Welcome to our session. It's laptops, Mac, netbooks, tablets. Time to rethink recommendations and laptop program for students. So are we all in the right session? Basically, Dell and I, I'm from Mercer University and Dell's from Emory, and we talk quite a bit about how we're doing each other's supporting students, what our laptop program is, what recommendations that we have. Mercer, we kind of have a unique program that we give our students laptops, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Dell, they just started doing recommendations before they did nothing, I believe, but he'll talk about that, and that's kind of what we'll do first. And then we'll talk about what they currently do. I'll talk about what we currently do and why we do that. And then we'll kind of move on to other devices that are coming out and how we think that's going to affect us and what we might support for the future. So pretty simple. We don't have any PowerPoint or anything else. We're going to do more talking and answer anybody's questions about what we think of what we believe and what we do. So I'll let Dale talk about everything.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dale Jackson, and I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself. It's going to be a little boring. I lead the efforts for our response in the IT department for any faculty and staff and student computer-related matters. That covers a lot of stuff. I've been with Emory for about 4 years. My primary background is corporate America, and you probably hear some of that thinking this morning. I'm excited to be here this morning. I'm going to be really excited at 10 o'clock. That's when my vacation starts. So at Emory, we have a policy where we don't say no to anything our students bring in the door. I mean, if you got a Windows 98 machine and that's the only thing you have, we will try and accommodate you. You don't have Service Pack 3 on your Windows XP machine, but you want to still connect to the internet and you have IE6, we will do whatever we can to accommodate you. Well, as you would imagine, that's very difficult for a lot of reasons, and it causes a lot of issues. When students bring in their machines, they have a limited time that they can actually turn their machines over to us, and most of the machines require a lot of work. And we have a very small staff dedicated to focus on student computer-related issues. So what the challenge for me, coming from a corporate environment where everything is mostly structured, where we have pretty much a response and a quick answer for everything. The environment that I'm in now is just not like that. And one of the things that I would hope that we can implement soon would be something similar to what Chris is doing. But what we do have for our students is what we call a recommended computer. Not sure what that means. We have specs that we would. We have some specs that we recommend that some students purchase, to make their lives a little easier. But in terms of a particular model, this year we worked with Dell Computers to work up one spec that we were hoping to market to the students. I believe it's the 6400, the Latitude 6400. And I checked last night, and we only had 2 students out of an incoming class of approximately 250, 260 students. We only had 2 students to follow that recommendation. For me, because I'm probably on the front line of the day-to-day efforts, and I see a lot of issues with the students. Personally, I think not having a mandatory laptop program, I think we're doing the students a disservice. And I could stand up here all day and talk about why I think that is. Chris and I kind of went back and forth about that. But I'll leave that for another day. One of the things that I was hoping to bring out today was whether or not you guys, because you all do what I do, whether you feel that your current efforts, I would imagine most of you all are similar to the situation at Emory where you don't have a mandatory laptop program. Versus what Chris and maybe a few other schools do that I know. I'm not going to probably belabor this point, but up to now, do you have any questions or comments? Do you agree with the theory that just making a recommendation to the students is suffice? Has that worked for you guys?
Doug, we've been making recommendations for as long as I can remember, and at least for us, it's been pretty successful because I think the incoming first year class tends to be very sensitive to suggestions from the law school. And then if you kind of hint that everybody else is going to have this machine, at least that's what we found. We have a lot of people buying the Latitude that we recommend.
So, do you know when they purchase? This is the first year Emory did it, correct?
Yes.
So they don't know, they still have a lot of time to purchase. It may that they'd be purchasing later. Do you know what the time frame is that your students usually purchase?
Well, they start probably around April.
Well, that early.
Yeah, because we have an open house for admitted students in April. And that's when we give our computer store the first crack at them. And then we talk to them all summer and kind of send them little notes and things. But that hasn't stopped them from buying Macs. And I've been famous for being the don't buy a Mac guy. And we're probably over 15% Macs now. So if they're Mac people, there's very little we can do about it. But if they're PC people, they're pretty much going to buy a Dell.
So you all have a greater buy-in of your students to your recommendation.
We're scarier, maybe.
Go visit Steve's house.
Kim?
We're kind of going full circle the other direction. We've always had a mandatory program. And we had a program where there was an option one, which was a school. We worked with Lenovo mostly to come up with a package. They could buy it through their financial aid. Or you could be what we call an option two student. And if you were, you had to be very defined. You had to have a certain processor. You had to run business operating systems because the machines were going to the domain. So there was reasons why we did all that. In 2000, between 98 and 2000, I would say 2/3 of the students purchased the option one program. Last year we had out of a class of 180, maybe 30 purchase it. And so we've done away now with our option one program. And this year, 40% of my students so far bring a Max. And the first year we allowed Max, I think I had 15 students that brought Max.
What's your price point for your option one?
That ended up being the biggest deal. I mean, we couldn't get a package together with a business machine because we did not want the crap, basically. I don't want the $500 HP, Best Buy special.
And the students don't see that difference.
No, they see total, and so the package is $2,000 by the time you roll in all the software and 3-year all-inclusive warranty. The vendor that they work with has an office on campus, so if something goes wrong, they literally just have to go to the building next door to us to get their machine worked on. But that didn't matter. I mean, machines have come down in price. I think students now have been since kindergarten owning computers. I mean, this isn't anything new to them. So last year, I stopped requiring business operating systems, and we decided not to put the students on the domain and just see kind of what happened. And it worked fine. I mean, there was little things they had to do differently. So this year, it's just bring whatever. But we're not going to support Windows 98. So if you bring that crap, you're SOL. I mean, we did say this is what we'll support, and this is, what we're not going to support. And if you're running a B only wireless card and you can't get on our network, then you really need to go upgrade your card, and stuff. But usually, I don't see The crappy machines are usually the $500 brand new Best Buy HP specials, frankly, you know. So and our young faculty have decided they really want to do away with the mandatory program altogether. It's really weird. The old school faculty, the younger faculty are like, we don't want the computers in the classroom. We feel like it's a distraction. The students aren't paying attention. So the faculty are having this big discussion. And one of our new faculty members is really kind of heading up the effort to get rid of a mandatory program. So I almost see in 2 years that that will happen.
Our mandatory program is a little bit different. It's kind of mandatory. What we actually do is we purchase all laptops, incoming students. We give them a laptop. We purchase them all.
PC based?
We do all PC right now, all Dell. We do this year to be the E6410s. Last year we did do Lenovo. We tried out Lenovo. I have a price point. I negotiate with them. And every year we give them something slightly different just because we try out different things. This year we're getting the E6410. We're giving them an external hard drive for 320 gigs so they can back up. We're trying to teach them to back up their data on an alternative source. We give them a backpack, a secondary battery, and 2 chargers. We get 1 hour with them during orientation that we can show them how to use everything, how to do it. It makes all students on an equal footing basis. Everybody has the same machine. If they do choose to bring in something that they want, we still support them. Obviously, this is rolled into their tuition. Our negotiation with Dell is we have 6 payments. It's right after tuition's due, and we pay off 1/6 of it in each time.
How many machines are you talking about?
150. Right around 150, 160 is our incoming class. We have 450 students, and what we see as the big benefit for us, not just the students, is we can have one person support all 450 laptops without getting too bogged down. We have an image of that hard drive. We have drive duplicators. We have a sys-prep image. They come in and their drive's messed up, Windows messed up. We take a hard drive, we duplicate it, use their data, and they're out the door within an hour, completely set up and redone. Spyware, viruses, we can wipe everything out in an hour just within their data. We have 5 loaners. If our students have a hardware issue, we just pop their drive out of their machine, put it in a loaner, send them on their way while we get their machine fixed. We have a 24-hour response from Dell, complete coverage, accidental, everything. They come into the school, usually they're about once a day, replace any screens, motherboards, or anything like that. And then we give them an email, they come back, pick up their machine, they're on their way. One thing we try to guarantee our students is never without a laptop. So we can always give them a loaner, always give them something to use. This past year we did Lenovo. We had them both come in and peak. Lenovo had a better price point, and then we're going to offer a little bit better. So we like the product, but the service, we had a lot of problems with Lenovo. Parts are always on back order. Our average turnaround time was getting up to 2.5 weeks because she couldn't get an LCD, we couldn't get keyboards or anything like that. So after that, 1 year with Lenovo, we're going back to Dell this year. The students, when we give them their laptop, they sign a 3-year lease agreement with us. If they leave the school at any time, they can either purchase the remaining portion of the laptop or they can turn it back in. Most we've gotten turned in is about 7, but at that time, we also take in transient students or transfer students that laptops get reissued. So we haven't been stuck with a whole bunch of them. If they complete the 3 years and graduate at Mercer, the laptop is theirs. Our image, we set up the first image, we send it to Dell, they image all our machines for them, we put everything on the machine for them. It's all set up, all the OS, all the antivirus, it is tied into the domain, all the printers, everything. When they open it up, they're ready to go at the law school. During orientation, we also have a USB on their in the bag that we give them. The USB during orientation week has all their documentation for their orientation, all their scheduling, maps of the law school, all their assignments for that first week. So they have access to everything during that first week. That's pretty much our program.
Do you make your students administrators on their computer?
We do.
Okay.
We tell them for 3 years it's their computer, they're responsible for it, even though it's still a lease. They're full administrators. And we'll have students install different OSs and stuff like that. And we still do have Macs coming. We'll support everything that we can, but it's very little compared to other schools because they do have this laptop. They don't fail. One nice thing is I see is they don't have to go and purchase something. They can roll it. It's automatically rolled into their tuition. So obviously it's going to be rolled into the loan for most students. But they don't have to put it on a credit card or something that week to go and purchase a laptop. Our admissions offices use it as a selling point, free laptop. You'd be shocked. A lot of students go for that. I wouldn't pick a law school on a laptop, but there are some. So is there any questions? I know that was kind of a quick summary.
What operating system?
Well, we're doing Windows 7 this year. We did Windows Vista right off the bat. Windows Vista had a lot of headaches at first, but surprisingly we had a lot less antivirus and spyware. It was helpful for us, a little bit of headache for students. I think Windows 7 will improve that experience.
So you're 64-bit, and which flavor is that?
We're still, right now, at 32-bit. And we could have put 64-bit on there, but we didn't this year. I'm not sure why we didn't just do that. And then we give them Office. This is the first year we're not giving them Word Perfect. We did do the site license for it, but we didn't install it on our machine. We got not enough students use it, I think. So we set it for Word Perfect, automatically opens up an Office and see how that works out.
Have you got foreign students who come in and ask for a foreign or brought in a foreign edition of Windows or something?
We haven't. Most of the vast majority of our students are still in Georgia. From there, we haven't had any. Oh, we had one that brought his own, and there was a foreign laptop, foreign OS. But we haven't had anybody install it. And I think he might actually install it himself on the laptop, actually. So, but we haven't ran into that issue much. Similar.
How many students do you have?
450, 460 right in there.
Total or per income?
Total. Incoming class is 150 to 160, depending on your it takes us about 2 days to get them all prepped and everything, and then we have that hour in orientation that we hand them out, have them send the leads. We got it down to pretty much assignment. We set them all out on the desk. They come in alphabetical order, find their name, they go through the documentation, sign it, then they come back to the room that we do the orientation. They open it. They love us during orientation week because we give them something. They're not scared of us.
How big's your staff?
3. We have one open position. We haven't filled it. But we have 3. One person supports the students solely, myself, and then we have a system admin that does faculty, staff, website, and the servers. That one person that supports the students, he's not overbearing. I mean, he does pretty well for how many laptops he supports. Just because the way we have it set up, he can, if it's, we don't have to troubleshoot that much. He can just take that hard drive, image it, he transfers their data, and moves it back. We try to make sure that they back up, but in case they do, we can move their data for them. And we try to make sure that they save their data in the right spots, like My Documents and stuff like that, where we can just grab their profile and then move their profile back to the box.
Can you talk about any problems that you've run into? I mean, like if a laptop gets stolen, it's yours, not theirs. What happens? And also maybe one of the things that's kind of stopped me from looking at mandatory programs is potentially the student expectation is going to be higher, that we're going to do absolutely everything, which we almost do anyway. But I can usually stop short at a certain point because they're bringing it in from somewhere else, and it's their responsibility at some level.
Yeah.
So
the first thing we tell them in their little lease, they are responsible for them. We recommend that they get renter's insurance, which I think we've had a total, I think, 5 stolen in the last 3 years. Right in there. I think 3 of them had renter's insurance. All of them happen to be travelers, and travelers great. They call us, say, send us a sheet, send it, and then we reissue a laptop to the student once we get payment on the first one, and then that new laptop takes over the lease. We haven't had any other issues outside of that. Everyone's transferred really well like that. Student expectations, I think we do everything for them. Because if they have any problems, we take care of it. We make sure we take care of everything, any hardware, anything. If they drop it, they spill it. If they run it over, anything, we take it in. The only problem we've ever had so far is we had one student that was in National Guard. He dropped it out of a helicopter when he was over there, and Dell wouldn't recover it because it was in a war-torn area. That's the only one we've ever had so far. We've had issues with Dell. Besides that, we covered everything. So.
A couple things. Who puts all the information on your flash drive that y'all hand out at the orientation?
We do. What we did is we bought CD copiers at one point, and we had they have 5 USBs up at the top. We have 2 student workers. They put the master one in, bought 5 blank ones. It takes about a minute and a half to do 5. They pop them out, do 5 more.
How do you feel the backup system that you're kind of trying to get them used to using with the external hard drive?
This will be new for the hard drive. In the past, what we've done is we give them a half a gig of shared space at the law school, that's a Mac drive, and we've tried to talk them into copying off that. The problem is it's not accessible off campus, so we had a lot of problems with that. So this is what we're trying this year. We're like, okay, let's make it accessible everywhere. Let's give them this hard drive and see how that works. And this is kind of one of our experiments to see if they use it. Because in the last couple of years, we've been telling them, get an external hard drive, and they just don't want to buy it or don't. So this year, we're going to buy it for them, stick it in there, teach them how to use it, and see if that works.
It's interesting, this past fall, I had a student come in looking a little distraught about this little netbook she had, and she was having problems hooking up to one of our printers. And I asked her if she was doing okay, and said, oh, we had a fire in our basement suite she was living in, and I lost my laptop in the fire. And I go, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, did you have backup? And I said, I did, but it was in an external hard drive right beside my laptop.
Yeah.
So,
I guess we haven't considered it, yeah.
What we're recommending they do is use something, either Dropbox or Mozy or Carbonite, one of the three. We tell them you should be using one of these so you have a off-site backup. Use an external hard drive, which is wonderful, but for anything critical like term papers
and we still give them, we still have the drive inside school. Plus, we did the Microsoft Exchange Live or Live.edu, and they get 10 gigs of backup space there too. So we haven't pushed it yet, but every time we have somebody that comes in with problems, we usually push that person more than push the rest of them.
Yeah, multiple backups is good.
Good.
I'm glad that you are able to create an ideal environment for you to manage, but there's a lot of political issues there. Convincing them to go with Windows option only is a big problem. I don't know about the US law schools, like in our law school probably about 30 to 40% are bringing Mac. What you have to realize is all the students come from different high schools, and a lot of high schools some of them are just teaching Mac. I don't know why they are. So it's a big battle. Like I myself don't have a Mac. So profs are like some of the new profs are, I don't know, they were trained in Mac or they're comfortable with Mac. So when they bring in Mac, with the academic freedom, you cannot say, okay, you have to use Windows machine only.
Yeah, so we don't do that. If they bring in a Mac, we'll support them, but they still get the Windows machine.
Yeah, the problem is like you should give both options, because the problem is in a university, there are so many faculties. So if other faculties are giving, it is a battle against, very tough to win. How come they are offering, you are not? Yeah. So, like, I don't know, I'm glad that you're able to convince them to go with this.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things why we can do that is we did it before the big Mac rate. I mean, this has been in place for about 5 years, so Macs weren't as popular as they are now. So the expectation of having a Mac, we've always kind of sealed that because we did it early enough. The second thing is nobody at our university, at the university level, gives away Macs that much, so we don't have to compete with them. But we've been actively looking at the Mac program. The problem is the price point. Macs are a lot more expensive. For me to get the same Mac compared to the Dell that we have to really drop a lot of options and stuff like that. And that's the problem there. Apple does not do an educational discount for institutions. They do kind of the same across the board, even if we buy it allowance. So that's the issue, and the administrative headache of, if we do this not for our faculty, we do this for students. So how would we get the students to tell us, I want a Mac or a PC, and that we know that that's the right selection for them, that they're not picking a Mac because all the other students got Mac. But we've been kind of exploring different ways about, is there a way that we can actually give that option to the students and make sure that they understand if they make a choice, that's the choice. And we just haven't came up with a good plan to do that and be cost effective, that we can stay within the same program, offer the same support. This year, since we switched back to Dell, one of the things that they did in competing with Lenovo is they're paying for both my other two workers to be Dell certified, and we're going to work out a plan that if they do repairs, they can get paid for that. I still have to work with the university on what happens with the pay and stuff like that. But we can have that option that they'll send parts only, and we can do the repairs in-house if we're slow enough. And so that's the university, I think, will be the big thing that we got to work out there. In my favor, they have one Mac person over there that's Mac certified, and they've already made that deal with her, so I kind of have something filed. So I would, if we have the time, I'm going to try to get them, but they can replace all the CDs and stuff like that and get paid.
You said a price point to negotiate. I see two problems there. Like, do you have like a university-wide agreement with Dell? Because when you have that, they don't want to negotiate or give a better price to a faculty, even if they're giving a bigger business.
We do not have a university contract with Dell. I deal with Dell myself, and when the program was established, they have a set amount that we're going to spend this much. So I have that much to play with, and what I have to do is I have to compete by bringing in Lenovo or other companies and try to go back and forth to Dell to make sure that we get the best deal. Our price point for the E6 6410s are $14.50. They provide the bag. We logo the bag. They provide the hard drive. They provide two batteries, the two power supplies. We used to do 2 batteries, but instead now we do the 3-year warranty on the battery, because that was one of the things we got hit on every year was my battery was dead after a year and a half. Now it's fully warranty. The battery is fully warranted for the 3 years. 4 gigs of RAM, 500 gig hard drive.
Including the full 3-year warranty.
Including the full 3-year warranty and accidental damage, so anything they do to it, they replace it. Every 50 I purchase, they give me one free one. What else do we put in there? Is that about everything?
But to get that price point, did you promise that you will get a minimum number of laptops?
150.
So that you already knew students would be buying.
Yeah, but my students don't buy them. I buy them, and then we give them to students.
Yeah, but you have to have an idea how many will commit to this one.
Yeah, we will always take 150 students. That's my thing.
But
it's school.
So are you making it mandatory for them to buy?
They don't buy it. We give it to them. It's built into the tuition. When they come in, we hand it to them.
Yeah, but you also said you allow them to bring their own one.
They can if they want, but they still get the one we purchase for them.
Oh, I see. They still have to get it from you.
Yeah, they still have to take it, be responsible for it.
Chris, I just wanted to also add to bolster the argument for a mandatory laptop program and a PC over a Mac. There's still a lot of major bars that would require a Mac user to incur some additional costs by running boot camp to take the bar, as well as there's still the vast majority of the law firms that these students will go and work for. You know.
Excuse me, when you say take the bar, is it on exam sum?
Well, you have different bars that they use different software vendors.
Oh, okay.
So I know for Georgia, you have to take, a Mac user would have to install boot camp on their machine.
No, it's true, but I think that was the case. I think ExamSoft is giving full Mac from this September.
Native Mac in September.
Native
rolling
Mac
out.
boot camp is, that's not an extra anymore.
You're talking about the Windows operating
Yeah,
system.
Windows
Yeah, right.
No, I agree. That was an issue. We ourselves had that problem.
Windows is
Yeah.
But playing politics with Mac or Windows, I don't know whether it is right or wrong. Like in an academic environment, forcing them to go with one is a big challenge. So.
Well, you always have a choice.
Understand?
You always have a choice.
Yeah.
There's no need to force.
And some
Pick a different
schools
school.
just don't, for the longest time, we banned Macs.
You're fine?
For the longest time, we banned Macs because they just didn't work right. Printing didn't work right because of the software that we happened to be using to run it.
Yeah, but then
I drink the Mac Kool-Aid. I'm a total Mac girl, okay? So, but
They're just
but
wrong.
my students,
no,
that's
that's
just
true.
the way
But
it works.
then you are hypocrites because you allow profs to use Mac, but then you give a different argument for the
We
students.
didn't allow anybody to use Macs. I personally, I use both. But, but what's happened through the years is, the way we've done things and the way our systems change. And frankly, the undergraduate population has really pushed, at least our university, just say, you can't just say you can't bring a Mac. I mean, I don't even know what the percentage of the undergrads that have Macs at University of Richmond, but I rarely see a PC. I mean, I see Macs everywhere. And they don't keep track because we don't have a mandatory or requirement even for the undergrads. You know, I don't know how much they're keeping up with that.
I think it's unique in each environment how you do
Yeah.
it, but like I said, the reason that we don't have that issue is because this was put in place before the Mac really hit. So
Right.
there's an expectation that they're already getting this, they know they're getting it when they come in there. But if they choose to buy a Mac still and come in, we still support that. And that some of them, they use a Mac and that's their main laptop, and they have the other one at home, or they bring it back and forth depending on what they're doing. We have a lot of WordPerfect users on our faculty. Macs can't open those WordPerfects, it's a big issue. So a lot of times they would have to use their PC to open up the WordPerfect document, or they have a faculty to convert it to Word or a friend convert it to Word. So in our school, there's not that push for Mac. I mean, it hasn't been. We have faculty that use Mac, but they bring in their own Mac. We have students that use Mac, but they bring in their own Mac. We still provide them with a PC. Got some questions.
So, I mean, but the key there is that they're provided this computer. It's
Yeah.
part of their tuition.
Yeah.
It's and essentially they're financing it over many, many years too, but that's beside the point. But the thing is they get it, so that kind of it gives you the latitude to say, no, this is what you're getting, this Dell latitude. You know, that's what you get.
And we'll
that's
offer
kind of
100 support on it and everything. So.
Right, so and they choose whether they use it or not
Exactly.
under your program. So do you get any pushback on that? I mean, is that, and how did you sell, two questions. Did you get pushback, and then how did you sell that to the administration, kind of adding on to the cost of tuition?
This was actually in place a year before I got there, so I didn't have to sell it to them. But how they sold it to the administration at the time was they couldn't support the laptops that were being brought in, and there was a wide variety. And they said, listen, if you allow us to do this, we can support all these laptops. And basically he said it's $275 a semester for us to do this, and we can make our students much happier. We can provide everybody on an equal footing, and we can fully support it. And the administration went for it. So that's kind of how we did it. Pushback from the students, we usually have 1 to 3 students that will come up with, say, can I just get the money and buy my own laptop? Or can I put that money into something else? And we tell them, no, it's rolled in, you can take the laptop.
Right, it's like a gym fee or something.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So, and besides that, we haven't had much pushback at all from students. Even some of them that come up and say that, after like a semester or two and they have problems with their laptop, they'll be using this one. Or their laptop will break and we're like, well, if you use this one, if it breaks, we'll replace it. No, you can't do anything except for get it stolen. And then we remind them of the renter's insurance.
And you have a small department,
Yeah,
so
3 people.
3 people, and so basically you're still able to handle all of the overhead of this replacement by bringing in Dell. I mean, Dell
Yep.
comes in and they fix
24
it.
hour, they come in a spot, they fix anything, motherboards, LCDs or anything. The only time that we have to ship it out is if it's been submerged in some type of water. Then they want us to ship it to them. We give the student to a loaner, and then we ship it out. And we've had them come in with beer, wine, pineapple juice I think was the worst. Coffee, everything you can imagine, dropped off stairs, ran over by a car. I mean, we've seen everything.
But the usual warranty doesn't cover that, I guess.
No,
Yeah, you
because
have a special
we
warranty.
have that accidental warranty, and we make sure we get that for everything is covered. Everything but theft and torn areas that we found out.
Do you ever run out of those loaners? Like, have you ever had it to where you had maybe 10 people, you only have 5 loaners, or like you said, you change your model every year, so you have to have a model for each laptop brand, or each version that you buy every year?
We haven't yet, but that's my fear with the Lenovo's right now because of the long turnaround time. I'm afraid that this year, since we're going to the second year, we'll see a lot more breaks on them. And if Lenovo still stays with the 2.5 week average turnaround time, we're going to have issues with that. We haven't with Dell because if we call it in before 3 p.m., they are there next day repairing. And we have it back by about 3 p.m. repaired. So it's been, for Dell, we've been pretty much 24-hour turnaround time, and we haven't had more than 5 break in a 24-hour turnaround time. And that's hardware. If we have software, sometimes we just give them a loaner hard drive, pop their hard drive in there for software, and move the data that they need while we rebuild their drive and move everything out.
Do you, when you said that you couldn't, before you came along, that someone made the argument that they couldn't support that laptop support that they were coming in. Was it because they just had enough on their plate with other projects, or were there so many laptops coming in with problems they were overwhelmed, or was their skill level not as good?
I can't answer for that one.
It was a staff of 2 at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Instead of 3.
Because we're a staff of 3, same number of students, and I do all the student laptop support. Anything that comes in the door with any problem, I do with what I can to do. Plus, I do other stuff like server side and labs, and I'm able to balance it. We don't have a laptop requirement, but I did put in place a laptop loaner policy, so I have up to 10 laptops I will loan out for those that I'm working on. And that seems to really help students, and it makes them happy. I try to balance, learning Mac and the Windows side evenly, so I'm able to troubleshoot and keep up. But I'm wondering if it's going to get harder. I've been there 4.5 years, so I've not had an overload too much because of our size, which is about 450 students.
I think it may get harder. My thought is with all the $500 laptops and stuff like that, if students continue to buy those, it's going to get harder. They're going to break faster. They're going to last 1 or 2 years. Whether they buy a new one or try to get it fixed, I think the rate of errors is going to go up on the cheaper components.
We do have a website where we put our minimum requirements, and we do highly recommend an actual laptop and not a netbook for that reason. And like you said, the one else, they take you seriously. They're like, okay.
Yeah, I think if you buy in on that, it would be much better off.
Our Mac usage, when I started, was probably 10%. I'd say right now it's about 50%.
Well, have you seen a drop off in your support? Because I know here we're about 40 to 50% Mac, and I've noticed, because I deal with most of the students, that at some point about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, now that half the students are Mac, we have less people coming for help because the nicer Macs are staying better longer compared to the crappy $600 PCs that are breaking all the time. So I've seen a drop off in our need to help support.
Mine fluctuates depending on the semester, but one thing I find that the Mac users that come to me isn't I'm having a hardware problem or my screen's flickering. It's how the heck do I do this?
Right,
how
that's
do I
what we
do
get.
that?
Right.
How do I even right click? Those kind of questions.
But I bet every day. I mean, every day I'm cleaning malware off the computer. Every freaking day.
Right.
And it's never off the Mac. I mean, frankly, I'm happy for
Yeah, that's the biggest argument.
Yeah, I think if you spend $2,000 on a PC, you're not going to have the error that you have on the $600 PC.
Right, exactly, and which is why your program is working, because you're getting the good laptops and not the $500 crap. But it's hard to tell. I mean, unless you tell them you must get it. We tell, I hate supporting netbooks because you can't. They're so cheap sometimes that it's hard to deal with. But you get a student in that spent $300 on this computer and it expects it to do everything and last just as long as a $1,000 Dell that's sitting right next to it, and it just you have to kind of know it's not going to last 4 years. So especially because they close it, they throw it in their bag, everything else. So.
Actually, one thing that I'm going to be heavily encouraging this fall is using something like Dropbox or SugarSync, because basically what it does is it synchronizes the contents of your My Documents folder onto a server, so that if your laptop breaks or goes away as stolen, you could go to any lab computer, for example, or buy a new laptop, install the Dropbox, or access it through a web browser. You have access to everything at that point.
I've actually done that. I've done training the last 2 years for Syncoplicity and Dropbox, and I've had over 150 students use it. And I've had students come in and say, "Oh, thank you so much for teaching me how to use Dropbox. My computer just crashed," and I give them my loaner, and I...
Dropbox auto sync now?
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, and it works on Mac and both.
Yeah, and Syncoplicity actually allows you to sync more than one folder. It works the exact same way.
Well, he said his hand up forever.
I was just going to tell you about Maryland. We started off really rigid. These are the 2 models of like the 11-inch and the 14-inch. We'll always support it. Bring anything else. Don't talk to us. And we had to abandon that model. Gotten really flexible over the years. It's bring your own. We'll talk to you, but you're your own mechanic if you need to reload your operating system. We have a lot of Macs. I usually offer 2 models from one manufacturer, and I always got, I hate Dell or I hate Lenovo. Well, this year I'm offering 5 models. I'm offering Dell and Lenovo. Pick the one you hate the least. I got a 10-inch Dell with a decent keyboard, a decent screen. It's a high-res screen. And I got an 11-inch Lenovo, 13-inch Dell, a 14-inch Dell, and a 14-inch Lenovo. If they're 2 of the Netbook class, 2 of the desktop, or the full size, I tell them if you're getting a Netbook, it's more limited, but it's way more portable. It's lighter. They don't like schlepping around the 14-inch, god-awful, 4.5-pound laptop. Pick the Netbook, because all you're taking is notes and surfing the web and doing email and doing Facebook anyway. You don't need a full size for that most of the time. But pick what you want. If it's one of mine, I can re-image it in an hour and get you out the door. You didn't buy online, I'll give you a loaner. I'll give you an older one. It's not going to be a Mac if you brought a Mac, but I'll give you a loaner. The priority goes to my program students, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm offering 5 this year. It's the first time I'm offering 5. I gotta buy 5 models, but they're happier when they have choices.
And I think our students have been very happy with the program. We do a feedback every year. What should we change? What should we do? And stuff like that. And we get about a 95% feedback of very positive. They liked it. They'll rip Dell occasionally. So we listen to them. We try Lenovo. And now they're going to probably rip the Lenovo, especially with the support issues. They tell us we want a wireless mouse. We did that for a couple of years, and we didn't see many. We've seen quite a few usage of it, but they've come down and cost a lot, so we're not providing that this year. We're replacing it with a hard drive, and we'll see what the feedback is. We do change up quite a bit on what we purchase every year, based on his feedback, to see what the students was. One of the best things that we did was 2 power supplies for the students. They love just leaving one in the locker there and one at home, so they don't have to carry run the power supply back and forth.
And then they still come to the help desk and ask if you have one because they can't find it.
Yeah, and then
Do you have an extra power supply?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir, we don't have anything extra here.
Our one rule is that we don't loan those out.
Yeah, no.
However, there is always one that some student left, and it goes to the library, lost and found. So we always tell them, just go to the lost and found and get it, then turn it back in, and they do that all the time. So we don't loan it out, but the library kind of has a loaner program that gives us out.
The other thing I did was I gave the 3 techs I have that are doing the frontline support, I gave them all MacBooks and told them to boot camp it. And the tech who was absolutely gun-shy about touching a Mac will actually answer some questions now because he's got one that I assigned to him. So he's, can run home to mama and play with Windows when he needs to do some work. He can play around with Mac on it, and but he'll answer questions now that he wouldn't answer a year ago.
We all have Macs also. We use Macs in our IT office, and we actually transfer our data, our PC data, with the Mac. Because if you mount it with a Mac, it transfers much quicker onto it. You don't get all the permission errors and stuff like that, if files messed up. So all our data transfers, actually, we transfer onto the Mac, and we put the redone hard drive back in and transfer it back. We found that it's so much more effective than trying to use a PC, because you always get pop-ups on the PC. This file can't copy, or this problem. And the Mac seems to push it right through it. So we use Macs in Office quite a bit.
It's funny about that power supply. We have 3 universal ones we purchased, and we'll loan them out for a day at a time, and they are very popular.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things. We did 2 of those.
It's like a service, though.
I say too bad, so sad.
You've got a
Go ask your
point over
neighbor.
there.
Yeah. We want to touch on some of the other stuff. Bill, you want to talk about it, or you want to? So, we always get the questions, what about when the iPad comes out and stuff like this? I don't think it's useful. I have one. My 2-year-old daughter uses it more than I do, but I don't see a student using this. I really don't. And the problem is input. There still has to be a better way to input on these than what there is. I see you type on yours, but I can't type on it. It's difficult. It's slower.
So in my defense, I do have a Bluetooth keyboard that I forgot to put in my bag.
But even
Because I was in a hurry.
It's cumbersome. It's still, you have to pull out this, set it up, then you're going to have to pull out a keyboard, set it up, whereas a laptop still just open it up.
Yeah.
Don't you think, though, you're going to see both? I mean,
I don't.
because I've already have.
I think you'll see the first year for the students that have the money that buy it because it's an Apple, it's new, and they play with it. There'll still be a couple of those around that'll play with it, but functional, it's not there yet. It still needs to have a faster input for data. I think that even with the Bluetooth keyboard and stuff, it's still cumbersome. It's worse to carry 2 items and a full-size keyboard that you're going to put in front of it than it is to carry a laptop, a netbook, or something that you can just open up. A Mac Air smaller still has an input. You still need some type of input that's going to
It's getting cool factor.
So yeah, that's why they have it.
Actually, two things. One is a 10-hour battery life is huge.
That is big.
And second thing, I think that it will improve dramatically as they rev the software on it, just like the iPhone did initially. But you're right, I agree with you. Right now, for note-taking, it's not a good tool as an individual unit as it stands.
And on this one here, what we have on it, there is one function that I like on it, but this is what we do most of the time. We watch a lot of movies. My 2-year-old loves it, holds it. We buy the digital copies, and she just holds it up there and watches it when we travel and stuff. This thing has watched more movies than it's done anything else, and the Netflix application is really good.
Yeah.
It has all of Barney. So you can do Netflix and watch Barney all day. You have on a big TV. She likes
You don't have to, right?
Yeah.
You don't
She
have
can
to.
just listen to it. She doesn't quite get the headphone idea yet, but she can. We can turn it down where she can hear it there. The other thing that I did find useful is RDP, which is the Windows Remote Desktop.
Yes.
It's a $10 app. You can remote into the Windows Server 2003, 2008. There's a free one. The free one, I think, is you don't get a right click, but if you buy the $10 one, you do. It saves all your sessions. You can click on it. It'll remote right into it, and you have full access to that machine. You can do pretty much anything on the machine you can do there.
Is it only 40-bit encryption, both apps?
It depends on whatever Windows RDP is. I think you got to pick the middle level RDP, which I think is 40. The new one, which I don't know if it supports new encryption on Windows Vista, Windows 7, is much higher. I don't know if this app will support that or not.
I think it's only 40.
So.
They do have VPN support though, so we have a couple of users connected to VPN and then RDP through that.
I still think it's still a little clumsy using it, but if you need to do something real quick and you're not by your server, not by your machine, this is kind of a nice tool for that. But to pay for what it costs, I don't think it's worth it. I think I was talking to you yesterday, for a $500 iPad, the time you add stuff onto it, it's about $900. The case, to add this on, to add that on, and then the time you get done, it's $900. I could have bought a nice laptop for $900.
Plus the fact that there are no apps for exam software, and that's a lot of things that the students ask, will this work with the exam software?
I would not take an exam on that thing. I mean, yeah, I love
Right, but the students would, given the opportunity.
I do think that, I think the iPad is a separate, if I were choosing between a Netbook and an iPad, I'd choose an iPad in a second. I just would. I mean, I just think the longevity is going to be there. I don't think typing on that little keyboard, to me, is any
I think you definitely have to do
less
the
cumbersome
Bluetooth.
than that.
Yeah, you definitely have to do the Bluetooth keyboard if you're going to take an exam on it, but still you're going to be setting that up and then putting in the keyboard and using the sync, and the screen's going to be smaller for your see less text.
You know, one thing that's nice about the iPad is it doesn't erect a barrier between the instructor and the student.
Right.
And that's something that we thought may show promise in the future as the applications mature for that platform.
Yeah, there definitely could be better applications for it. The Keynote, I'm not a big fan of that because you don't see your slides on there. You just get a forward and backwards button and tells you what slide you're on. So you can't see your Keynote slide while you're actually projecting it up.
Actually, one interesting thing, we do a survey of our incoming students about technology, and we changed the survey every year to sort of see what's going on. And one interesting thing that we found this past year is that 40% have Macs, and 60% of the students have a desktop computer at home. If I was a student, I'd seriously consider, doing this for note-taking. There's no way I could do serious research on it. For just note-taking, this would be okay. And then I have my dual monitor, 24-inch thing at home for actually doing some serious work on it.
I think for how much students type on notes, I mean, there's still so many that don't take shorthand, that take full notes, and input would be very hard on those.
Yeah.
And the students don't just type notes. They type notes, they chat on GChat, they are browsing the internet, checking their email. I mean, there's so many times I know students in class and sending me emails. You can't do that.
Well, that's the profs are like that. But it's interesting that 60% have desktops at home. I didn't guess before we asked the question.
PC-based desktops, or
we didn't ask. We will next time. But they have 60% have a desktop computer at home to work on as well.
You might get less faculty pushback because you can't multitask.
Yeah, they might like that. And one thing that we're doing with all our laptops now, since we're doing laptops, we pretty much done away with our computer lab. We're going down to 3 to 6 computers, that's it. And instead, we're gonna mount monitors on the walls, where they can take their laptop, plug into a big monitor. I love that we're getting our legal writing people that they can turn their monitors, do the widescreens, they turn it and see 2 pages of the document while they edit and stuff like that. Or they give you visuals, see a couple paragraphs instead of 1. So we're getting rid of PCs and kind of moving to let's support the laptop, make them use their laptop, but make it more usable so they can edit, so they can see more, so they can plug in and use it right here. I can't wait until they have the little charging stations that you don't have to plug it in, you just set it on the back of. Dell has one out, but it's not cost effective right now. But I hope in a couple of years we can do that, just line a track down the desk. When they just set the laptop on it, it'll charge while they're going in, and then have a way easy to plug into the monitors, keyboards, or whatever they want to use there. Where it could be function as a desktop PC when we sit at stations in the lab or whatever.
What kind of screens are you thinking about putting up? Like DVI or display port?
Well, because he's got the new display port, we're kind of seeing it. I haven't even seen a monitor with a display port yet, though. We are just doing our lab. It should be under construction, actually, starting while we're gone. So once that gets done, then we're going to kind of look at the monitors, explore that option. Before the monitors, I want to make sure I get the right mount that I confirm that students have that option.
We just bought a bunch of display link monitors, which are USB only.
Really?
And those are pretty slick. I haven't explored the big ones. I bought some small ones for my guys to watch our help desk calls on. But
it's just USB plug it in.
It's got two USB plugs, one for signal and power, and one for power only. And you don't have to use them both if you're close enough to the.
Does the PC recognize it as a second monitor where you can spin it and everything?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's pretty slick.
I'll have to check those out.
Actually, we replaced the back row in our computer lab, brand new computer lab. We took out the computers and gave them to staff because they didn't need computers, but we bought 22-inch monitors so they could do the dual monitor thing, and it's been extremely popular for.
Have you tried turning them and seeing what they're at?
No, we got the cheap ones that don't turn.
Well, you can buy I think it's called ergo mounts. Mounts many of them that they can turn.
But they really love just having 2 monitors so they can have the word processor on one and the browser.
Yeah. What we've seen in the last year is that they would come in and unplug our monitors and then use them as 2. So why even have them a PC sitting there?
You ever worry about bent pens?
With what?
Bent pens.
We have lots of
cables. We haven't done it yet, so that's why we just put them in. That's why the display port would be nice, is you don't have to worry about bent pens. So it'll be new this year. We'll be trying it out this year.
So we haven't had any bent pin problems, but they're the standard VGA connectors. So we've got a bazillion of them in a box somewhere. So if they bend, just replace it.
23-inch Dell monitor that has DisplayPort, DVI, and VGA for $180.
There.
So
do what they
that's
want.
what we're buying right now.
So that would probably be the ideal situation. That way, if they could plug anything in. Do we have any other questions or anything? Dell, you want to throw anything else in? I kind of took over.
I had a question about the people who are using Dropbox and the online storage. As a disclaimer, I'm a librarian, JD, so what I want to ask about is the security of that, because I know especially if students are working in externships or internships or with clinics, and they have client files, and they have to protect the integrity of those files. So is it security, something like that?
Actually, in Canada, we've got to deal with the Patriot Act in the United States, which is a big issue. So institutionally, we can't put any data on a server that would go to the States. But for the students, we make them aware of that, but it's their call. We make sure that they need to have some sort of a backup. I believe with Mosey, you can define what your encryption key is, so that Mosey cannot unencrypt it unless you've got a 3-letter agency behind it with a lot of computing horsepower. But I don't think you have that option with Dropbox. So you're right, that could be an issue.
I can tell you at Emory, our clinics, like the Barney Clinic, where we actually have real clients, those students are precluded from by the university under our security mandate not to put any data for any real clients on any type of external backup. It's got to be on a university-owned system.
And for our students, we have set up a on-campus server, well, a space on one of the servers.
Lisa, that was just my concern with recommending the online storage, because.
We even go so far as to preclude any other student from accessing that same server. So that there's as much security as possible.
So we have a terminal server that they use for the clinical program, so they can use their computer, but they're on the terminal server, everything is stored there. Yeah.
Dale, I have a question. Even though you guys don't have a mandatory program, do all your students bring laptops, or do you have students that just choose not to bring laptops?
No, all of our students have their own laptops. And to your initial, this time next year, if I was a betting man, I would say that Emory will be starting their first year of a mandatory laptop program. Now, being Chapman, my boss, is not in this room, I can make that declaration. I feel like there's some work to make that happen.
You'll have to make sure Linux is an option for then you'll get them to buy in.
Do we have any more questions? I think we got a couple more minutes.
You track the database for the tag numbers of the PCs you hand out?
We do. Dell sends us a database of the service tag numbers. That's and our computers are in an Active Directory. They're in the domain law for graduation year, and then the service tag number, so we can see them that way. Plus, we keep a database of their wireless card because we used to have to authenticate with MAC addresses, and we put that in there. We don't authenticate with MAC addresses anymore, but we still get that sheet from Dell that has all the MAC addresses, ID. And then when we assign them to the student, we assign them that they get that service tag for that person. And on the release, that service tag is up there, and they sign off on that. So they know, and when they get their laptop out of the bag, they check the service tag, make sure that service tag is the same one on the release, and that's what they sign off on. So we make sure that they know which service tag that they have, we know which service tag that they have, and that's how we track it, and that's how we do insurance or anything else.
So Chris, you don't update the MAC address when they get a new board?
We no longer do that. We have sign-in now. We got rid of that. So yeah, we used to have to. Anytime they got a new board, we'd have to go update the MAC address, update it in the Radius server, and then they would be back on. Otherwise, they couldn't get on. But we finally got rid of Radius to the university and went to a sign-on at the law school. So we don't have to do that anymore.
I came in a little late. You might have said this or not, so I apologize. But did you approximately say how much it's costing every year?
We do. Our laptops are $1,450, so it's about $275 a semester per student. Is what we get our tuition paid for.
So when you say it's 6 payments, it's 6 payments over 3 years.
Over 3 years. Yep. And we're a tuition-driven school, so we do the payments in October and February right after tuition comes in. Dell's pretty lenient on this. This will be the second year, though, that we don't finance through Dell. The last 3 years prior to this, Dell gave us 0%, so there's no interest on it. We did a week. But this year, we're actually purchasing them out through the university. And so we'll do payments to the university instead of there.
So Dell gets paid up front?
Yeah, Dell will do complete payment up front. Yeah.
So Chris, what happens if you guys have a lot of dropouts?
Usually our dropouts, if we have a lot of dropouts, that means we're taking in transit or transfer students. So the laptops get rerouted to them. We've never had a case that it hasn't come out fairly equal. We maybe get 1 or 2 more loaners, we put them in the loaner pile, or there's always the dean wants a new one or something like that, and we'll say, hey, we got a laptop, we'll make the dean happy and get the old one out or something like that. We have extras. But for the most part, it's worked out pretty equal because admissions always want to stay right in that number. So if we're losing X, we'll bring it in X. I think we're done.
You can't roll laptops into
It would have been a lot better years ago.
You gotta have somebody take that card for you.
Have a good trip. Enjoy New York, come on. And David, love you.
I've been debating.
This year we have. It also means that we know every year. Those So this is how we do that. And that works out.
Getting fired $90.
We never thought about it.
Now, one guy.
But it only works for campus. As far as
Yeah, it's changes.
Yeah, I met myself. Testing.
So what's an application?
But I tell
Yeah. So when, but I mean, again, that's Apple advertising their control.
It just mirrors.
It's just a mirror.
It's literally copying it.
I think to get it down.
Thank you.
Too much